Hello everybody, I hope you can hear me all right. My name's Debbie King, and along with my colleague Lisa Hagger, I'm going to give you a presentation on adult nursing at Canterbury Christ Church University. It's lovely to be able to have the opportunity to do this because we're strong believers in the most fantastic course. Lisa is the senior lecturer at the Canterbury campus, and I'm a senior lecturer at the Medway campus, and I'll explain what that means as we go through. So let's make a start. You will have a choice of studying on either campus with our course. Our course in adult nursing is identical, whether you choose to study at Canterbury or at Medway. As I said, I'm one of the lecturers that's based at the Medway campus, and Lisa is one of the... Sorry, I've just lost my slides there. I don't know if somebody can help me with that. Lovely. And Lisa is one of the lecturers at the Canterbury campus. The course is absolutely identical, and although I'm saying I'm based at Medway and Lisa's based at Canterbury, in fact we're interchangeable all the time. So we are up and down that motorway all the time. So Lisa will teach at Medway and I will teach at Canterbury along with our colleagues. We mix and match. The lectures are identical, the material is identical, the learning resources are identical. It's just a personal choice where you would prefer to study. Both campuses are quite different. Medway is slightly smaller. Canterbury is slightly bigger. Medway is much closer to London. If you wanted to get into London quickly, you can be in London in 35 to 40 minutes from the Medway campus, whereas it takes a little bit longer to get in from Canterbury. So if you're undecided, what we'd recommend you do is, when it's safe to do so, which of course it isn't at the moment, maybe have a walk around both campuses and see how you get the feel of it. So adult nursing run on two campuses, the Medway campus and the Canterbury campus. And what you've got here are two of our wonderful libraries. The Augustine House Library is based in Canterbury. It's very new. It was only built over the last couple of years. And the Drill Hall Library that's based at the Medway campus. And it's called the Drill Hall Library because it used to be the drill hall for the Navy base, I gather. So I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's supposed to be the longest library in England. I might have got that fact wrong, but it's certainly been awarded some sort of award for being a longest library. So these are two of our real show-stopping pieces of our campuses, but there is another one that I want to draw your attention to. It's so new, it doesn't even have a name yet. We're calling it Building 2. It's based on the Canterbury campus and it's part of our new medical school that opened this year, but it contains simulation facilities. As we'll get onto later, some of your course will take place in simulation laboratories. So these are mocked up wards where you get a chance to practice your skills, and Building 2 at the Canterbury campus is the newest simulation suite that we've got. So your program, the adult nursing program, is full-time. Okay, so it's full-time over 3 years. It lasts 4,500 hours in total, and it's split between theory and practice. We work on a 40-week academic year and we work in modules, and I'll explain all this to you in a minute. And it is the largest program that we have at Christ Church. We are really pleased with our nursing program. It is a fantastic nursing program. We are extremely proud of it. We run it on a series of modules, so they're like units of study. So as we'll talk about in a minute, in your first year, you'll be doing a module about the foundations of nursing. Then you'll be doing a module about communication studies called Caring Conversations, and you'll be doing a module on promoting health and well-being. So the module, when we talk about a modular program, we talk about small units of study that study various topics. They concentrate on one topic. Now, this is an interesting word picture that we've got up here. We've included this because these are all the qualities that our student nurses need. We're often asked, I want to be a nurse, why on earth do I need a degree? Because nurses care for people. Absolutely, we care for people. It is our number one job, is to care for people. But we need to do an awful lot more than that as well. So if I can just pull out one or two words from this word cloud we've got here. We train our nurses to be autonomous. So the days of doing what the doctor says are long gone. We are accountable for our own actions. We use evidence-based practice. And so we need to be able to back up what we do. So we're autonomous practitioners. We need to be competent. We need to really know what we're doing. And nursing is it's exciting. It is, personally, I think it is the best career in the world. And I've been a nurse now, don't do the maths here, but I've been a nurse for over 40 years. But I have seen it develop, and we need to use more and more skills in nursing. And you've got to be competent in their skills. Because as I said, you're an autonomous practitioner. You need to be an expert. And what you'll find is after you've done your general training, you will normally go and specialise in an area, whether that is in the community, or it might be medicine, or it might be surgery, it might be pain, it might be intensive care. There are loads and loads of opportunities that will open out to you as an adult nurse. So you will become an expert. We're also problem solvers and leaders. So we are leaders in care. We're communicators, we're visionary, we're our patient's advocate, we're innovative, we're aware, and we're inspirational. And all these things mean that we've got to have a really good theoretical basis behind it. We've really got to know what we're doing. So that's why you need a theoretical degree behind you to be able to be a nurse. How do we teach? We teach in many ways, and I'm sure one of the questions that you're going to be asking us when you have a chance to do a question and answer session a little bit later is, how are we managing during COVID and how are we managing during lockdown? Well, even when we're running normally, in inverted commas, we use blended learning. So you will be doing some studying at home and you will be doing some seminars in university. So you'll have some study that is set for you through our learning platform called Blackboard, and you'll be studying that on your own and then coming into universities for core lectures or seminar groups. At the moment, we're very heavily reliant on digital technologies. So a lot of our teaching is taking place online. And of course, we change that in line with government guidelines. Your safety is absolutely our priority. So although we're carrying on an absolutely full programme of study, it will, at the moment, that includes a lot of online learning and seminars and lectures taking place online, a bit like we're doing now. And then as things get safer, we will introduce more face-to-face teaching. So under normal situations, you will have blended learning, we'll be using digital technologies, and you will have face-to-face lectures as well. So we take into account everybody's different learning styles, because you all learn in different ways. And on our programme, we really try to cater for everybody's different learning styles and different styles of assessment as well. So it's not just essay after essay, exam after exam. You will be examined by an exam, or maybe 2 exams. You'll have essays to hand in, you'll be doing presentations, you'll be doing case studies. So there's a load of different assessment strategies that we use as well to cater for everybody's individual need. Now, I've mentioned what modules are before. So modules are units of study, and these are sort of the pillar modules that will go through the entire of your training. Clinical science, we teach you have to learn about the human body. The body is our business, as we say. So we teach you science, and that starts in the first year and it goes through the first year, the second year and the third year. In the first year, we teach you about the human body in health. In the second year, we teach you about the human body in illness. So we look at pathophysiology and pharmacology. And then in the third year, we get you to apply that. We don't just look at the physical aspects of nursing, we look at the psychosocial aspects of health and well-being as well. So you'll see all your modules will have an emphasis on physical and psychosocial elements of caring for a patient or a service user. Because when we're caring for somebody, we look at holistic care, and that involves certainly physical care in a lot of cases, not all, but in a lot of cases. But also because we're looking at the person rather than the illness, that will also incorporate psychosocial aspects. I've mentioned simulated practice that take place in our simulation wards. This gives you a chance to practice skills before you're let loose on the public. So you will get a chance in the first year to practice taking blood pressures and heart rates and temperatures, washing patients, all your fundamental skills before you hit out onto the wards, onto your placement areas. And simulated practice will take place again in your first, your second, and your third year. We teach you about nursing theory as well. We teach you about the theory behind why we do what we do, and models of nursing and tools that we use to help us assess our service users and patients and form care plans from that. So we teach you about nursing theory through your first, second and third year. And of course, you've got placements as well. So placements are actually 50% of your training. So 50% of your training is theoretical with us at university, and the other 50% takes place out in placements. And more about those in a minute. So these again are examples of modules that you might undertake with us. Caring Encounters is a module that is about conversations, about communicating with our patients and our service users. Nursing and Social Justice is about nursing in the real world, about nursing and how that can promote social justice. We have group clinical supervision that happens throughout your 3 years, first, second and third year. This is a safe environment. It happens at university, and it's in a safe environment for you to bring in things that might have cropped up in placement that you want to talk about, things that may have concerned you or things that have gone really well. And it's an occasion where you get together with a small group of your peers and a facilitator and talk the issues through, and then come up with some sort of plan at the end of it, should you encounter that again. And the first module that you'll be doing when you enter is the Foundations of Nursing module, and that examines our NMC Code of Conduct. As nurses, we're bound by a code of conduct that are published by the NMC, and this is the module where we really examine what it means to be a registered nurse. A lot of you may have come from different areas of practice. You may already be working in the health service. So this is a really good module for you to understand what it means to be a registered nurse and the responsibilities you have and the impact that's going to have on your patient or service users' care. And it's integrated with science as well, so you learn basic science within this module. These are some photographs of our simulated practice suite. These are based, looking at this mainly at the Medway campus, and you can see it's mocked up like a real ward, and our students wear their uniforms, so you feel like real nurses in there. And here we can see nurses, I think, practicing giving injections, making beds, talking to patients. They are incredibly sophisticated areas of learning, and we work on simulation mannequins that they actually have pulses, they breathe, they can make noises, you can listen to chest sounds, you can hear heartbeats. They are very, very sophisticated and excellent ways of learning before you go into practice. So your placements, and this is the bit that everybody wants to know about, because this is where it feels what it feels like to be a real nurse, which is why you're all here. So we have various placements in both acute and community settings all over Kent. You get support in practice from your personal tutor. They're referred to as PATs, personal academic tutor, and in practice you're also supported by practice assessors and practice supervisors, which are the new names for, you might have heard them called mentors in the past, but with new standards that have come out, they're called practice assessors and practice supervisors. So you do get good support in practice. Your practice supervisor supervises you, obviously in the first year, very closely, slightly less closely in the second year, and by the third year, encouraging you to look after groups of patients on your own with just a little bit of supervision. And it is 50% of your course, so obviously you are going to be assessed while you're out in practice, and that's done by a practice assessor whilst talking to the PAD. So you've got lots of streams of support while you're out in placement. We don't put you in placement and then just leave you there. We keep in contact with you so that you have the support you need while you're out there. We're often asked, where will I be put in placement? And I've already said that you could be based in the community, so that might mean in a GP surgery, or it could mean working in a nursing home, or it could mean working with district nurses, just to name but three. Or you could be working in the acute trust, so you might be working in hospitals as well. But what area would you work in? We don't give any guarantees about what area of Kent you'll be working in. You can see that our placement areas extend from Dartford to Dover, Tunbridge Wells, Shepway, Swale, and all areas in between. Very approximately, if you choose to study in the Canterbury campus, you will normally, not exclusively, but normally be allocated a placement in East Kent or the Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells area. If you are at the Medway campus, you tend to get placement areas nearer the Medway campus, such as the Medway Trust or the Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells Trust. We have very, very few placements in Dartford, but we do have a few placements in Dartford. But again, I would stress here, there is absolutely no guarantee where your placement will take place. We do look at where you live and what campus you're studying on, but there isn't a guarantee. And you may very well be asked to travel between areas in Kent, especially when you're doing community placements. So this is a map of all the areas we cover, so you could be expected to work in any of them. The way it works is that when you will start your program with us. You fill in a form telling us where you live, whether you can drive, and whether you've got dependents or not. And from there, you will be allocated an area. So, for instance, if you train at the Canterbury campus, you may be allocated the East Kent area, which means you may get a hospital placement at the William Harvey Hospital or at Canterbury or at the QEQM, or you may move around between all of them over your 3-year placement. But you're allocated to a trust. So you're allocated to a group of hospitals and the community in between. If that's a bit confusing, and I understand why it might be, please feel free to ask us questions in the chat later. Just so that you know what our expectations are from the start, we do expect you to follow the placement shift patterns. Now that means that you'll be working weekends, bank holidays and nights, and it could be early shifts, late shifts or long days. So just so that you know from the start, you will be allocated your shift patterns, and I'm afraid we don't work a request system. So you can't request where you will be placed, and you can't normally request your shift patterns once you're there. You will be given your off duty by the ward, and you're expected to follow that. So it is a training that does include earlies, lates, long days, nights, weekends, bank holidays and so on. So you are getting a flavour of what it is like to be a registered nurse. So you follow the patterns on that particular area. Your training, as I said, is 50% in practice and 50% theory, and it's counted in hours, as you could see right at the beginning. So if you miss any hours in placement, so for instance, if you're not well, you do have to make those placement hours up. And we do expect you to travel as well. So we would expect you to travel up to an hour and a half to get to your placement if you live inside Kent, and if you live outside Kent, it may be a little bit longer. So I'm afraid we do expect you to travel to your placements. So we've put that slide in so that you know right from the start what we expect from you in terms of the sort of placement hours you're going to have to work, and what we expect from you for travel. I've mentioned briefly before that you're supported by a personal academic tutor, PATS for short, and a personal academic tutor is responsible for a group of students. Normally we're responsible for about 20 to 30 students, and that's called the tutor group. And it's a bit like being in a form at school. It's a bit like being a class at school with a teacher, except that we as PATS don't teach you. We teach you for particular modules. So we teach you personal professional development, but we wouldn't necessarily teach you for any other module. So we touch base with you in the development modules, and we look after you for 2 out of your 3 years. We'll stay in touch with you while you're in practice, but we're also there for the other stuff that crops up. 3 years is a long time, and things do crop up during 3 years. Wonderful things crop up in 3 years, like weddings and babies and causes for celebration. But sometimes within that 3 years, students have problems as well. And your personal tutor is your go-to person. They are the person that's going to help you when you don't know what to do, when you don't know where to look for information, when you need to talk about something, when you're having a really good time and you want to share it, or when you're not having such a good time and you need to talk about it. We are your constant point of contact, and we will be your tutor for 3 years. So the tutor that you start with, as long as you stay with the same group, will be the tutor that you end with. So you've got consistency, and we get to know you and you get to know us as well. And it's one of our real strengths of our course is the support we give our students. So personal academic tutor is part of that support. You also have support in the form of cohort leaders. So a group of you will come in September. You'll be divided into personal tutor groups, but then all of your groups together are known as a cohort, and there is a tutor that leads a cohort as well. So you've got 2 levels of support while you're training. So you've always got somebody that you can go to and talk to. If we take leave, we always make sure that somebody's there to replace us, so that if you have something you need to talk about or discuss while we're on leave, you will know who to contact in our absence. So that's our tutor system. We also have very, very good student support services as well. We've got good health and wellbeing services, and we have fantastic academic support services that will help you if you're a little bit shaky on referencing, or you need some help and reassurance about writing essays, or maybe you have dyslexia and you need some support to be put in place. That's what our support services will do for you. And as a personal academic tutor, we'll be able to point you in the direction of the right support services for you, and we'll be able to point in the direction of where to find them on the website and have a discussion about as well. So you've got lots of support in the form of student support as well at our university. This is the high point of your training. It is the graduations, and we are so fortunate because it doesn't matter which campus that you choose to train on, you will graduate in one of our beautiful cathedrals. Canterbury, obviously in Canterbury, and Rochester in Rochester Cathedral. And I've heard students say that in the times when things maybe weren't as easy as they were to start with, the thing that keeps them going is the thought of this beautiful graduation. It's a wonderful, wonderful celebratory day. And that happens at the end of your training when you qualify as a qualified nurse and a Bachelor of Science. So once you've been through your training, where can you expect to work? The opportunities are boundless for nursing at the moment, and there are just some down here now. Operating theatres. So we mention this because sometimes people don't realise that nurses work in operating theatres, because operating theatres you tend to be sleeping. But nurses do work in operating theatres, GP surgeries, we work in prisons, we work with the police, work in the community, in people's homes. And yes, we really do work on cruise ships. And I have worked with 2 people who have gone on and worked on cruise ships, as well as working in hospitals and in acute environments as well. And the good news is that 100% of our adult nursing students were in a professional and managerial job 6 months after finishing their course. So that was 2016, 2017, and that is wonderful news for anybody looking for a career that will end up with a job at the end of your course. So you may want to bear that in mind. Thank you for listening. And again, I would like to welcome you, and we will welcome your questions as well. I would just like to say, from a personal point of view, I think it is the best job in the world. As I say, I've been a nurse for 40 years. It's an incredibly privileged job to do. It is the one job in the world where you have the privilege of being with people in the good times and the bad times. You can make a real difference to people's lives. So thank you for listening to my presentation. Lisa and I and Lindsay, who is one of our students based at the Canterbury end of our, waving to you there, Canterbury end, are now open to your questions. So I'm going over to the chat bar. And I think Lisa's going to start us off.
Okay, thank you, Debbie, for that presentation. So I can see some of the questions here in the chat, so we'll work our way through. It seems quite a popular question here is how many UCAS points are needed to do the adult nursing programme? And also, does the Access Health course get accepted in terms of starting straight in the first year? So let's start at the beginning then. So the entry criteria for the BSc Adult Nursing is 104 UCAS points. We also have a master's in adult nursing, and the entry criteria is slightly different for the masters. If you already have a degree, it may be that you can apply for the masters directly. So if it's in a health related topic, your previous degree, you would need a 2-1 for that. If you've got a different degree that's not in healthcare, you would need a first. So if you have those and you're interested in the masters, there's slightly different approach to the master's degree, but that may be an option. So for the BSc, 104 UCAS points. We do accept slightly lower UCAS points in some occasions. So it may be that somebody has a lot of experience in healthcare in another role. They may have completed their study already, so aren't going to get any more UCAS points. So I would say to you, if you have got under 104 UCAS points, contact our admissions department, because we have our own admissions officer for adult nursing programme who is really helpful. So if you're not sure whether you've got the required amount of points, then please contact our admissions department and they will help. And that goes the same for the Access course in healthcare. There are some slightly different healthcare Access courses. Some of them will give you enough entry points, but unfortunately some of them don't. So it may be, if the course you've done doesn't give you enough points, it may be that the foundation year is an option for you. The foundation year adds an extra year onto your programme. So as Debbie was saying, the BSc is 3 years. If you can't enter straight into the first year of the BSc programme, you could do a foundation year beforehand, and that helps you with those academic skills to be able to then join in to the BSc. It just makes your programme 4 years rather than 3. So it's just a brief kind of summary of the entry requirements, but if you've got any queries, then please contact our admissions department. Have you anything else to add to that, Debbie?
No, I don't think so. The masters is a good point to bring up, that we do have the master's route as well. We also have the apprenticeship route as well, if you've got healthcare experience, apprentice, and we do obviously do nurse associates as well. But I think Lisa's absolutely right in what she said, and I think if in doubt about the qualifications you've got, the first port of call is our admissions, and you can find out their email address and how to contact them in our prospectus. So our admissions girls will be able to give you detailed information about what sort of qualifications you need. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Debbie. So the next question is, could you please tell me more about placements, where they might be, what hospitals, etc. So I think Debbie covered that in one of her slides, just saying that actually your placement could be anywhere in Kent and Medway. As Debbie said, we try and our placements unit try and allocate you in a trust that's nearest to where you live. But there's this expectation that you might have to travel up to an hour and a half to get to your placement. And one of the reasons for this is that we like to give you as much variety as we can with placements. So rather than just sticking in one particular hospital site or one particular area of the community, we like to give you a real varied experience. So it might be in the acute hospital, it might be with district nurses, it might be in a care home, it might be a GP practice or some other community setting. So as to where it will be, we give you a good variety over community and acute settings throughout the 3 years. So hopefully that makes it a bit clearer. But I just want to bring Lindsay in from a student's perspective. Is there anything that you'd like to share in terms of your experience on placements?
So I'm now in my 3rd year, which is a bit scary because I only started last week. So I've been on placement in the East Kent Trust because I live in Dover. So none of my placements have been too far away from my house. It's worked out pretty lovely, but obviously there is the chance that you may have to travel a little bit further. In terms of the placements I've had, in my 1st year I had a GP surgery, an elderly assessment ward, a dialysis unit and a care home. In my 2nd year I had a surgical ward, home visiting in the community, which was really fun. And then AMU, which is the acute medical unit, and I've just finished outpatient. So there's a massive range of things that you'll be able to do on this course. And I think it's just important to, if you really have it set in your mind, I think I saw in the comments someone really wants to work in A&E and trauma. If you've got it set in your mind, that's, really what you want to do, still give everything else a chance, because I didn't think I'd be massively into community, and I absolutely love the community. It was great. You got to be outside during the shift. It was lovely. So, and that obviously in the hospitals as well, you have something called a PPF, which is a practice placement facilitator, and they are there for you if you feel like maybe you can't talk to someone on your ward, maybe you've got a little bit of an issue, you want sort of an outsider perspective that isn't your assessor or your supervisor. They are so good at supporting you. They come round, they just turn up on the ward and they're like, "Are you all right?" And you can go, "Yep, I'm loving my life," or you can be like, "Oh, need a chat." And they will support you and back you, and they are sort of in contact with the uni. So no problem, you are completely supported both in uni and out on placement.
Lovely. Thank you, Lindsay. It's really nice, I think, to share your experience as a student. So, of course, we know from as lecturers how placements should work and ideal. But yeah, it's really good for you to share. Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, so another question here is, a few years ago, I studied tourism management at Canterbury Christ Church University. So that's really a good advertisement for us that you're thinking of coming back, which is great. Would you recommend to do health provision access course before applying for the adult nursing course? It's not a necessity. You don't have to have had any health experience to get onto the adult nursing BSc. So in terms of your study, if you've already studied and have got enough UCAS points to join straight onto the degree, then that's all you need. But some people do like to get some healthcare experience first, and that's obviously a personal preference. So some of our students like to do some healthcare assistant or clinical support worker before they start the course, or they may continue that whilst they're doing their course as well. But in terms of getting entry to the course, then you don't actually need to have any experience first. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that you've yeah.
So the next question, so thank you for the presentation, you're very welcome. If I don't have any experience in a hospital, will your application be considered? Yeah, absolutely it will be. You don't need to have had any experience in hospital. Due to COVID-19, it's really hard to find a job in healthcare at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. They're challenging times, aren't they? But don't worry. When you come into university, that's what we're here to support you with. When we have an interview process to go through to join the programme. And at the interview, what we're looking for is to see if you have the values that we want for an adult nurse. So we're not necessarily looking for you having had experience in healthcare. We just want to know that you've got those qualities we would want from our adult nurses. So in terms of the other stuff, those practical skills or the theoretical knowledge, that's what we're here to support you with throughout your programme. And we'll get you from having had no experience at the beginning then hopefully to qualifying in 3 years. So absolutely, it's not a problem if you haven't had any experience. I don't, Lindsay, had you had any experience in healthcare before you started the programme?
I started a programme. I was unfortunately unwell sort of a couple of years ago, but I started a programme in London, a nursing programme, out of school, hadn't set foot in a hospital at all, and I was nervous. I did feel like, I didn't even know. I'd never seen, like, I didn't know how to wash someone. I didn't know how to take a blood pressure. I literally knew nothing. And I walked in on my first day and everyone's so supportive. Your friends are so supportive. And then obviously when I came onto the course at Canterbury, I'd had a bit more experience. And I found that I was then able to kind of support the people who had come straight from school and had no idea. And what happened with those worries, I could kind of say to them, actually, it's a bit of a learning curve, but you're gonna smash it and it's gonna be great. So you learn so quickly. Like, I think that I did in the first year that I would have thought, I don't know how to do that. I now do like daily on a shift without even thinking about it. But then there are things in third year now where I think, oh God, venipuncture, I'm not sure about that. But then in 5 years' time, it's going to be like, yeah, I'll go take some blood. That's fine. It's just part of my job. So it's just you accumulate skills so quickly, and it's a really supportive, lovely program.
I think the important thing is to say we don't assume any knowledge at all. Absolutely none. We assume you have no knowledge when you come in, because even if you had worked in healthcare, we would still go through exactly the same things with you. So we just assume you have had no experience. So it's not a problem at all.
Lovely. So another question here: how far in advance do you give placement rotas? I would be a mature student with 3 young children and have to arrange childcare. So this is actually quite a common question that comes up. What we have to say to you is it's a full-time course of 37.5 hours a week. Now, not all of that time is spent in university when you're in your theoretical hours, but even if you're not in university, there is an expectation that you will do 37.5 hours of study. So in terms of childcare, you need to bear in mind that when you're on placement, it will be 37.5 hours a week, and those shifts will be very different, like Debbie was saying, nights, weekends, bank holidays, etc. The placements office try and get your placement information out to you 6 weeks in advance, so you'll know where you are. And we do suggest to you about a week or 2 beforehand you contact your placement area to try and sort out your shifts. But it may be that actually they don't allocate your shifts to you until the day you start. Okay, so you just need to be aware of this if you have young children, that you might have to make provision to have cover for Monday to Sunday, really, in case you're working those shifts. But generally the placement areas are supportive, and if you ask, they will give you your shifts for the full 4 weeks ahead once you're there, if you explain your circumstances. So yeah, in terms of placements, you hopefully would get to hear 6 weeks in advance. However, at the moment, in the current climate with COVID, we are allocating students to placement areas according to the risk levels of the student themselves and the placement area. And so there has been a necessity to make changes to placements. So students haven't found out quite so far in advance at the moment. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to add there, Debbie.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It does vary, I'm afraid, a little bit from placement to placement, and you can arrive and have your whole 6 weeks or however long your placement is shifts allocated to you, but some placements don't work like that. So no, there's nothing else to add to it.
Yeah, and it's worth bearing in mind that some placement areas, their shifts are only 7.5 hours long, so you will be working 5 days a week. But if you're in an acute area, in a hospital, actually the majority of them now do 12.5-hour shifts, so you may only need to work 3 days a week. So it really will vary from one place to another. Okay, so the next question. Yes, so as Lindsay kind of answered this one about wanting to work in A&E, how can I get there after completing your nurse training? Is there another course to take? Well, as Lindsay said, it's really great that you're kind of already got an idea of where you would like to work, but you might be surprised when you've tried different experiences. Your preference may well change. But in terms of, you can work in A&E immediately after qualifying when you've got your BSc in adult nursing. We've had students that have gone straight into A&E. So absolutely you can. Having said that, there are other courses, there are specific trauma courses that you might want to go on and study at a later date, but you don't need that in order to get a job in A&E. So the next question, so Debbie, you may want to answer this one. Could students be considered direct to the second year if they have completed a 3-year diploma nursing course outside of the EU?
I think what we'd have to do is look very carefully at what you've done and see if we could map that over to our nursing degree. I'm going to be honest and say it's unlikely, because the way our degree works is there are what we call progression points. So by the time you finish the first year, you have to have achieved certain skills. And we would have to make sure that you had already completed those skills before we said you could progress to the second year. And similarly, academically, you couldn't progress to our second year until we know you had already covered everything that you'd done in your first year. So I can't give you a definitive yes or no. We would have to look at your transcripts and have a look at your program, and Lisa and I would have to talk to our program director as well. So it's worth considering, but I couldn't make a promise on that, I'm afraid. And I think I was going to say, I think the question below is similar, but actually it's slightly different, so I'll save that one. So yeah, it's worth having a talk with admissions, and we would have a look at what you've already got and see if we can map it across. But I don't want to give you a false promise on that one, I'm afraid.
So, yes, no, Debbie, sorry, you go.
No, I was going to go on and look at the one below it, which says, I've done some online diploma in nursing and patient care, so I wonder if it will help me in any way. It would absolutely be, it's a brilliant thing to put down on your UCAS form, and it's a fantastic thing that you can talk about in your personal statement as well. So it'd be a really, really interesting thing to help you with your application. If you're asking whether you would be able to have an accelerated program and go into a different year, the answer's the same. I actually wouldn't have thought so, but again, we'd have a look and see if we can map over. But again, I can't give you any false promises on that one, I'm afraid. And as I'm here, shall I do the last one as well?
You can do, yes, because we've just got a couple of minutes.
I've just seen it. Do we start going to placement for the first year? Very quick answer, yes, you do. You do. You will see when you start, you will see the program. We will give you a sort of a plan of how you're going to be over the next year, where you're going to be, but absolutely placements start from the first year. Yeah.
So I think probably just time for one more question. Hello, I've been a HCA in the past and I'm really interested in geriatric nursing. How can I get into this after completing the course? And is there any other course that you have to take? So very similar actually to the A&E question. So yes, you can go straight into care of the elderly patient as soon as you've completed your degree. You don't have to go on and do any further study. You can go straight into that area once you've completed your course. But again, there are specialist courses available, so it may be that you want to go on and study something further, but it's not necessary in order to do your Sorry, I lost my thought there because I was looking at the time. So lovely. So I can't see, it may be that some others of you aren't asked questions, but hopefully when we've been answering the other questions, we've answered those for you. But if you've got any questions, you can always go through our admissions department and they will forward them on to Debbie or myself. And we've got other open days coming up in the future. And Debbie and myself are going to be holding question and answer sessions throughout the year. So if you decide to apply to the course at Canterbury Christ Church University, then if you're successful and we invite you to interview and you're successful with that process, we will have further question and answer sessions.
We really hope we'll see you at interview. It's been really nice to interact with you and hope that you found this session useful. Thank you.